What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. I appreciate you guys spending a little time with me tonight. You could be anywhere else in the world, but you choose to be here. And I definitely do not take that for granted. If you are catching the replay, make sure you leave me a comment, please. Let me know your thoughts. Doing something a little new with these live streams. Today, just in the interest of time, going to I've already chosen. Hey, what's up, man? Thank you for watching. I've already picked out three tickers that I'm going to break down. And if we have time, I'll take one ticker from, those of you that are watching and field any questions throughout. So without any further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. The platform that I'm using in this case is Trading View. So I'm going to check out um, Trading View. The first ticker is a stock, um, and it's Shopify. So ticker is SHOP. Trades on the Nasdaq. And the reason that I chose this ticker is because earnings is coming up on Wednesday. I think it's before the market opens. Don't quote me on that, but check earnings whispers, check the internet to be sure on that. But just like last time, I'm going to do a top-down analysis and see, what the price action may be telling us. But so this is Shopify's monthly chart, and um, what we're seeing right now and what we've been seeing overall in the markets is a nice little drop from the all-time highs, which was for Shopify that was 1762.92. So the past three months, Shopify has just been selling off. So transition into phase four of the market cycle, and that's always going to be that's going to be the markdown phase, which is always bearish. So for the monthly chart, just be watching to see when this thing might, find a bottom. And we don't know that it's found a bottom quite yet. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But you just wait for the price action to tell you or to hint that that is happening. So what I'm doing right now is drawing a trend line to represent resistance on this time frame right now. So if you know anything about me, I like to identify my key areas on each time frame and then go from there. So, in my opinion, as far as the monthly chart is concerned, sentiment doesn't start to shift until the price action is able to break this trend line here. So notice that in Thinker or not Thinkorswim, but TradingView won't let me do it, quite perfectly the way that I want to do it, but generally when Shopify gets up to this area on the monthly chart, it sells off, and you can see that. With earnings coming, it hasn't quite broken that low of last month, so that's an area that I would watch, which is 780. So 780 even. So I would mark that level, especially with earnings approaching. Um, just gonna mark that. Okay, so that's about 780-ish, and I can go in and actually adjust that, in the settings, but I'll do that later. So for me, in my opinion, if 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 the markets don't respond well or favor, or if the markets don't respond well to Shopify's earnings, I really think that it might break this trend line here on the monthly chart, and it's possible that Shopify can really have a nice continued pullback. And I think that Shopify is already in correction territory and maybe even in bear market territory, but I'd have to look at some of my other charts on Thinkorswim to confirm that. But I think it's down over 20% from its all time high. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty much all I'm seeing right now on the monthly chart. It's just waiting to see if this thing has found a bottom or not. And then also waiting to see if it'll beat this trend line here, and possibly this trend line to the downside around 780. If we take a look at the weekly chart, we can see that where the monthly chart is a little better, and I'm actually going to just make a slight adjustment here for on this weekly chart. And really, it's just kind of trading in like a bearish channel right now. And so I draw that out, and you just kind of see where it's kind of just oscillating a bit between these two trend lines in general. Um, so pretty much whenever it hits this level, it bounces, and then whenever it hits this level, it tends to fade. And over the past 3 weeks, you see that Shopify has been consolidating. So, my usual go-to when I see consolidation is I will draw a box to represent that area of consolidation. And I'm just going to change the color on this. So yeah, I draw a little box just to give myself a visual that, hey, this thing is ranging. So just kind of watching it over the next week to see, how the markets are responding to um, not only, things that may be happening with Shopify, which is earnings, but also broader market news. So really not seeing much else when it comes to the weekly chart. Only that this thing may be in phase one of the market cycle. So phase one is the accumulation phase, where it just kind of ranges, and then phase two is your markup phase, where it's the opposite of this one. So after that range, the price will break to the upside. So something like an earnings beat, and the market's responding favorably to that earnings beat, that could potentially cause a transition into phase two of the market cycle, at which point, we'd like to see the price, in order to consider this a real, in my opinion, a real transition to phase two of the market cycle, like to see that price get up into the high 900s area. Um, but it does have, some battles along the way. So for this coming week, watch, like I said, that 780 level to the downside, and to the upside, really around 885, somewhere in there this coming week, because above that, over the past few weeks, above 885, Shopify has really struggled. And I'm going to actually mark that area as well, just so I can have that visual representation, so that I don't, somehow forget that key piece of data. So so yeah, got that marked up on the weekly chart, and it just so happens to kind of go through the middle of the box here, so the middle of where it's ranging. Um, so 885 is definitely going to be one of your first levels that you're looking for to the upside for Shopify. Um, let's take a look at the daily chart and see if we see any potential signals or anything like that. And the daily chart is just kind of showing the same thing that the weekly chart is showing. And you can see where the past several days, the price has just been kind of ranging or oscillating between these two levels, um, especially down here to that key monthly level that I mentioned, or key weekly level that I mentioned, in that bearish channel. And so a lot of times when it comes to the price transitioning to another, or sentiment getting ready to shift, when it's trading in a channel, you'll start to see that price level out and start to trade kind of sideways before it decides to either go up or continue down, in this case. So same thing with Shopify right now. And really, if this thing sells off, and let's say it gets down into the low 800s, I think that's a pretty decent area to, consider a long position or a bullish position short term, and maybe catch some of that earnings run up potentially, because it doesn't always run up heading into earnings. But one quick little tidbit that I'm going to share with you guys, is that Shopify typically, the morning of earnings, especially if it's an earnings beat now, beat earnings and they pop up real high, they tend to sell off. So don't have to be upset that, dang, I missed that earnings, buying some calls and holding through earnings, because what happens is Shopify, when it beats and the markets are loving Shopify, it'll pop up real quick, and then trade will start taking profit like almost right away. So a few of us are definitely watching to see if that situation manifests next week. Again, Shopify is reporting on Wednesday before the markets open, I believe. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna just take a peek at the 4 hour chart to see if I see anything else, and not really. So with the 4 hour chart, we got uh, resistance kind of right here in this area. So we just gonna have to wait and see, what happens when the markets open on Monday. But again, we got a little demand zone in the low 800, so around 830 down to like 810. Um, appears to be a decent little buy zone, short term. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it with Shopify. Again, earnings is coming. A lot of times, heading into earnings, you'll see stock will start to go bullish. And you can, if you're like me and you don't necessarily gamble with earnings, you don't play around with earnings, you can catch that earnings run up and get your money before the earnings announcement. So just a little tidbit. And I'm gonna check and see if I have any questions. Um, let's see. No. Well, TT, so it depends. Like, earnings is always going to be 50-50. So no matter what, how much research you do, it does not matter. Earnings is always going to be a flip of the coin. And so the thing about earnings is you can make a lot of money, and you can also lose every single penny that you put in. Um, and also a con to earnings is that the prices of the contracts are typically really, really expensive. So we were looking at some way out of the money contracts, not even way out of the money contracts, with it being Shopify. We're looking at like some $1,000 calls, or calls at the $1,000 strike, and they were going for over $1,500 for one contract. So that's the thing about earnings, and we'll talk about that offline as far as pricing, the things that go into pricing these contracts, is that with earnings, something called implied volatility goes up, and when implied volatility is up, the premiums are more expensive. But right after earnings, the implied volatility drops drastically, which also drops the price of the contract. So, got to be careful with earnings, because I mean you can lose money really fast, and you can make a lot of money also. But again, your odds are 50-50. So in my opinion, I pretty much allot myself 4 to 5 earnings plays per year. And it's usually just, like some play money, like, oh, yeah, I don't care what happens. And I don't risk a lot. I typically, depending on what I'm playing, I typically risk no more than like $100 for an earnings play. And it's like money that I'm like, if I lose it, I really don't care. And if I hit, then I'm gonna hit pretty decently. So yeah, I tend to catch the run up into earnings, and I sell before earnings. What's up, Jigga? Thanks for checking us out tonight. Um, so yeah, that's it with Shopify. The next ticker that I want to look at is Roku, who also reports this coming week. I think they report Thursday after the markets close. And you can see Roku has been selling off for several months at this point. And a lot of that has to do with, COVID vaccines and stuff like that, because Roku was one of the stocks that also took off on the strength of everybody's going to be locked up at home. So now that, people are back outside and getting vaccinated and just, really tired of being in the house, period, um, the sentiment around that is, hey, nobody's going to be watching TV, nobody's going to be streaming and things like that. And I think, in my opinion, that's really like short sighted, because people are always going to, watch TV. They're going to, before COVID, we were streaming. We're streaming a lot more than we are, watching cable TV these days. But anyway, like I said, on the monthly chart here with Roku, it's trading in a bearish channel. Um, so basically, that just means it's just oscillating between two parallel points in a bearish way, and it's going down in the midst of that oscillating. So um, it's getting down toward a historical zone where the price gets bought up. So I'm gonna draw a rectangle there, just so I can have that visual reminder on my chart that, hey, when Roku gets down in this area, it tends to get bought up historically. So I'm just gonna make this purple so that I know this is based off of my monthly chart. So yeah. So that's pretty much it when it comes to Roku's monthly chart. And for the month of February, the levels that I would be watching, of course, is to the upside. I'd be watching about 190, and to the downside, 165. It may be even a little lower than that. So um, if Roku does horribly on earnings, I can see Roku at least moving down to the bottom of this range, or toward the bottom of this range, maybe down to, the low 100s, and maybe even down, below $100. So uh, definitely be watching the monthly chart on Roku, as we or not even really be watching the monthly chart, because you're only going to get one candle a month, but just be thinking about, as the price action occurs throughout from day to day, be thinking about, where it's trading in relation to some of these monthly levels that I'm providing. The weekly chart for Roku, you can see that bearish channel a lot better here on this weekly chart. And you can see where, oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. You can see where the price, hold on, okay, there we go. So you can see where the price has started to kind of level out on this weekly chart, and it's trying to get back over the mid 160s area. You can see last week it tried to beat this trend line, but it failed. So I really be watching this coming week to see whether the price can get above this 165.66 area, and even above 170. If they have a good earnings, for sure. Uh, and when I say good earnings, I mean the markets react favorably. Not necessarily an earnings beat, because we've seen uh, price action go bearish after an earnings beat. So just to put that disclaimer out there to you guys. But so this coming week, watching that 166 up to 170 area for Roku. Maybe it, may try to, break out of this zone just a little bit before earnings. And the thing about Roku is very, very volatile. So if you've ever day traded Facebook and seen how crazy Facebook is, Roku is like 10 times crazier than Facebook. But you can make money fast and you can lose money fast. So you really have to be like, you really should be emotionally calm and centered anyway, but you really, really, really have to be emotionally with it when you're trading Roku. Um, but one thing I do want to make note of on the weekly chart is this series of higher lows over the past 3 weeks. So right now on the weekly chart, Roku is holding this trend line. So when it moves down to this blue trend line, it's getting bought up over the past few weeks. However, every single time it's tried for that 166.67 area, it has failed. So we got sellers sitting up here just above this purple zone that I drew on the monthly chart. So uh, next week, just be watching to see if it continues to hold this area. So be watching like 159, 160 to the downside this week. And then, like I said, that mid 160s to the upside. So if the market's open bearish Monday, just take a look at Roku weekly chart. Well, be thinking about this trend line, or you can look at the weekly chart and see if this area holds. Because if it holds, there's a good chance that it's going to move up to this mid 160s area, and that offers a great opportunity for a little bit of profit, and not even a little bit, because that's well, I mean, it doesn't take a big move on Roku for you to make a pretty decent profit. But anyway, so if this area holds in a bearish market on Monday, there's a good chance that the price will move back up into this 160s area at least. So maybe trading it from the high 150s up into the mid 160s, and just not even worrying about earnings. Um, I don't remember how Netflix did with earnings, but you can look back on Netflix to kind of get an idea of what the markets might think about Roku. They tend to trade in sympathy with one another. So be thinking about that. Um, I'm gonna take a look at the daily chart on Roku. Okay, so with the daily chart, you can kind of see where the price has been kind of holding for the most part this trend on the weekly chart. And you can see where those sellers are, sitting right above this area. We got a little double bottom situation possibly going on. So the short term, it's found a bottom here around 145. So like I said, just be watching and monitoring sentiment as we start the week next week, especially after inflation and things like that got priced in last week in the markets, which is super bearish on Friday, really all week. But yeah, so if Roku does run heading into earnings, Roku can really run. It could run a good bit, in my opinion. If it does, I can see Roku heading to, maybe 180, 190, somewhere in there, possibly. Um, but that's really going to depend on overall the broader market sentiment. So I would be doubtful if the overall market is bearish next week that Roku would run like that, heading into earnings. But just giving some ideas about uh, how you can play earnings without risking your money uh, on the actual earnings. However, if Roku doesn't hold this trend line, I can definitely see Roku moving down to the low 150s and maybe even into the 140s. So again, be watching that, and don't be biased and thinking that, hey, it's at this trend line, let me just buy it automatically. You need to wait for that level to be confirmed. Um, what else can I say about Roku? Let me take a peek uh, at the 4-hour chart. But yeah, so with Roku, I to the upside, if you're thinking about, maybe a short swing trade, to the top side, just wait to see if it can get over and hold approximately 168, I would say, somewhere in there. So high 160s. 4-hour chart. Mm. 4-hour chart looks similar to the daily chart, so not much to say there. Um, we'll definitely see either a breakout or a breakdown heading into next week at some point, no later than Thursday, which is when they report. Let me see if you guys have any other questions, any other comments. Okay, none right now. Appreciate you guys. Okay, so that's pretty much it. As far as the stocks that I wanted to look at. Gonna check out a crypto joint, and I'm choosing Atom or Cosmos. Um, and that's because this is one that I've been watching for a little while. And here on the monthly chart, you can see where it's got like this broadening top situation going on, where the candles kind of get wider or taller as time goes on. Um, but seeing some strong selling beyond about this trend line right here. Okay, so gonna turn that to purple. That's not the right purple. There. Okay. So those are some key areas that I'll be watching on the monthly chart. So overall, the price has been trading between these two trend lines. Uh, resistance actually. So I marked this up a long time ago, but this is current resistance, that $32 area. You can see every time the price pushes up to that $32 area over the past couple of months, it sells off. So it's really having a hard time holding 32. And it's also having a hard time holding this trend line as well. So one area out, and it'll be made more clear on this monthly chart, or on a different chart. I'm really watching Atom for a short opportunity. So trading it to the downside, profiting off of a down move, really watching it around 26.50. And it has gotten as low as like 26.10 or something like that. Or actually, okay, it got down like 25 and a half recently. But I'm watching for it to hold below that area before I enter a short. And I really feel like if if it does break below that area and hold, it's gonna have a nice, decent sell off. So maybe give some people that maybe missed the run up the first time some opportunities to accumulate at a lower price. And of course, that's not investment advice. Do your own due diligence. But let's take a look at the weekly chart to see kind of what's developing over there. You can kind of see where, the volatility has increased as time has gone on. And this thing has just been kind of coming back down from this monthly level, and not even really being able to make it back up this high. But here is that resistance here on the weekly chart, which is around 42 or $44. So pretty much every time that Atom has hit 44, it's given an easy short opportunity. And overall, what it's been doing is it's been kind of oscillating in a range. And I'm going to show you guys that range right now, which is about right here. So for the most part, Atom has been trading on the weekly chart between about 44 and 22. And so what I'm watching for about right here, actually about right here, is for the price to break below this and hold. And then I'll be looking for a short opportunity down to at least 22. And if it breaks 22, then I'm looking for a short below 20. So of course that's not investment advice. I do your own due diligence and all that good stuff. But just telling you guys a play that I'm actually watching um, develop. And if that doesn't happen, that's totally fine. Um, on the flip side, I'm also watching for, maybe a change in sentiment and the price bouncing at those areas, at which point I'd be looking for a trade to the upside. But right now, the crypto markets are mostly range bound, and Bitcoin has been range bound for over a year now. And you really have to scale out on a longer time frame to be able to see that. Even when people felt like Bitcoin was still in this bullish bull market, but Bitcoin was just really bouncing at the low of a range and heading up to the top of that range. Um, and Atom is doing the same. It looks very similar to Bitcoin's weekly chart. I think it's the weekly chart. But you can see where it gets here and it trades up, or it runs up here, then it comes back down and it's just kind of zigzagging in this zone. So I'm just waiting for likely, like I said, a close below 26 and a half, at which point I'll be looking for a move down to about 22. And then the next, if that 22 doesn't hold, then I'm looking for something below 20. Um, and of course, if those areas hold, then I'm looking in the opposite direction. So I'd be looking for a bullish trade. Um, let's see what this daily chart looks like. Well, actually, let me change the color on my box here so that I know that this is a different time frame and not my monthly chart that I'm referencing. All right, so there we go. Let's see what the daily chart is saying. Daily chart, you can see, several days of it just trading in that zone. And so the thing about playing the range is you can catch stuff at the top of the range and go bearish. You can catch it at the bottom of the range and go bullish. So the big thing is just being patient. Um, and so I'm just, like I said before, I'm just waiting for it to break this area, this little neckline here, and then I'd be looking for a short down to about 22. Um, Either at 22 I take profit, uh, or close my position or whatever, and then wait for confirmation to see if this thing is going to bounce here or if it's going to continue to break down. And at that point, I'm riding it down to that key monthly level, and then I reevaluate once it gets to that level. So when I trade, I don't necessarily look for a specific profit target. I'm more so looking for areas on the chart that I've seen, um, that are historically significant. And so I tend to use those as my profit potential. So yeah, that's pretty much it with Atom, ATOM, and I traded against the U.S. dollar, tethered U.S. dollar, whatever, USDT, and I use KuCoin. There are many other uh, platforms that you can do that. Of course, if you don't know how to short, there are leverage tokens for Atom. So in KuCoin, those would be ATOM3S for the bear token, and ATOM3L for the bullish token. So you can just buy those. If you're planning to go short or you want to profit off of the down move on Atom, you buy the bearish token. If you want to profit off of an upward move, you buy the bullish token. So yeah, that's it. I ain't trying to do a whole lot of teaching here, but yeah, so that's an actual play that I'm watching develop. Got my alert set in my platform so that I don't have to hawk the charts like crazy. But I just enjoy looking at price action, so I do check Adam's charts multiple times a day. At least twice a day, I'm looking at Adam's chart to just to get an update. But at the end of the day, I have my alert set, and I'll get a notification when it hits my level, and then I'll know for sure to go look at the chart and see what's going down. But yeah, so is there a ticker that any of you guys would like for me to check out. I'd be happy to check out one ticker for you guys, and see if we can see anything. Or if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take any questions that you have right now, um, and we'll just close it out that way. Oh, actually, Winslow, I did Shopify already. So catch the replay. Right at the beginning, the Shopify was the very first ticker that I talked about. And you're probably thinking the same thing that I was thinking as to why I chose it. And earnings is coming on Wednesday before the markets open. And just to give you a little tidbit that I did give in the beginning, a lot of times when Shopify beats on earnings and pops at the open, it'll sell off. So if you're not, I'm not one to really play um, earnings, like hold through earnings. I've been burnt too many times to continue to stick my hand in the fire. I like to try to catch the money before and get out and just watch the show when it comes to earnings. But Shopify, when they beat and they pop up, they tend to really, really pop when they do beat, and the markets are loving it. It tends to sell off pretty hard after that. Like the profit take can be crazy on that. So there's an opportunity to short it potentially on an earnings beat, uh, believe it or not. So yeah, just make sure you catch the replay. And I talked about shop right at the beginning. I appreciate you. Okay, TT, you say CVS. I have no idea what you're doing with that either, but we'll check it out. Okay, Ronnie said BA. Okay, so I'll do CVS and BA. Shout out to you, Ronnie. I appreciate you coming through. So let's take a look at CVS, and then I'll take a look at BA, which is Boeing. Yes. All right, so CVS, start with the monthly chart. All right, so CVS really this 106 area, like CVS it struggles like mad there. And you can see where it's made an attempt this excuse me this month, and it's failed so far. So we got a supply zone up here and that's basically where the sellers are. So for CVS, sellers are really sitting above the mid 100s area, so 105, 106 up in there. CVS earnings is not until May, looks like May the 2nd. But so far, the trend here on the monthly chart is as follows, about right here. So this is where you're really looking when it comes to CVS. Is this lower trend line holding, and what is it doing here? So uh, uh, I would definitely pay attention to this monthly chart. As the weeks go by, to see if it can beat that 106 area. If it can't beat this 106 area, it could very well possibly come down to this lower trend line. So I would watch that for sure. We have another level right up in here around the 90 to high 80s area. So I watch that also. But I wouldn't anticipate CVS having that significant of a drop um, in the near future. I mean, it could happen, but yeah. Um, let's take a look at the weekly chart. Okay, so weekly chart, it's just pretty much everything was bearish last week. Again, you can see how it did once it got above 106. It just kind of it kind of flipped the script. And you can see on the weekly chart where it kind of comes down toward this level on the monthly. Not necessarily all the way down there, but yeah, it kind of comes down there. Um, Probably watch around 100. Like if it continues to sell off, see what it does at 100. Really, um, I mean, it's been moving for a little bit. Let's see, around October. Yeah, I mean, CVS has had a crazy move over the past, I mean, what, 5, 6 months. So yeah, that's just crazy on CVS. It looks like it looks like right now it's starting to range. So market structure, you got consolidation, then you got a break or a breakout, and then you got consolidation again, and then you get maybe a breakdown or it breaks out again. But it really looks to me like CVS is just kind of ranging. So I would watch this area here for the time being, and maybe even on down to like 95 to 90 um, over the next several weeks. Um, let's see, daily chart. I don't know. I'm not familiar with any catalyst right now that could potentially send CVS running. But really, I would just watch the areas between about 100 and 106, 107, because that's kind of where it's been trading over the past several days. Um, and the thing about ranging when you're in a position is it can really eat up your premium, especially as you get closer to your expiration date. So you got to be careful of that too, because the closer you get to your expiration, the faster that premium is going to erode. And it looks like short term, it broke a trend on this daily chart to the downside. What color do I want to make? I'll just make it yellow. No, that's not a good color. Black. All right, so it broke a trend here on this daily chart. So short term, sentiment appears to have changed. Just short term, it's still trading within this weekly range, but as far as the daily chart is concerned, you can see how over this period of time, there was a nice little move from 100 up to like 106, 107, or 110. Yeah, 110 it looks like. And then all of a sudden it had a drop out of that area. So uh, not sure what happened up here to cause it to come down, to gap down. Probably just overall, just sentiment with the broader market. But yeah, I would probably get rid of that position at this point. And I think you have an expiration of this Friday coming. And so I would probably consider, cutting my losses on that one. And okay. So, all right. So Ronnie asked for Boeing. So we're gonna take a look at Boeing right quick. And it's been a little while since I've looked at Boeing's chart, so that's cool. All right. Monthly chart for Boeing. Oh, I'm seeing. Okay. All right. So we got some stuff trying to happen here. Let's see. Yeah. All right, so we got like a little symmetrical triangle type situation going on. So Boeing's getting ready to make a move soon. Uh, Soon as in, within the next couple of months, probably. Um, and the levels that I'd be watching is around 217 and about 198, 200 to the downside for this one. And you can see where Boeing, gets bought up when it approaches this area, and it sells off when it approaches this area up here. Let me change my colors here, purple and purple. I mean, Boeing is I call Boeing can't get right because Boeing has just been struggling. Like it's been struggling for a few years now. And Boeing tends to range for long periods of time before it finally makes a move. But it's been, volatility has decreased overall. I don't know if earnings is coming on Boeing, um, but I definitely be watching out for some sort of catalyst that could cause it to move out of this area. So cause an actual change in sentiment on this one, whether that sentiment be bullish or bearish. So right now the markets are pretty neutral in my opinion on Boeing. And so yeah, that's something to definitely think about. And the as far as the weekly chart is concerned, I think that if Boeing breaks out, it could definitely have a nice run up over 230. There is a supply area. I'm just remembering from an old chart about probably about 230 to 250. I would have to double check on that. But 230 to 250 is an area to keep a close eye on when it comes to Boeing because it tends to sell off when it gets there, especially since it broke down over here. In this period right here where it was ranging, I mean, it was ranging for years before it finally broke below like 320 and it sold off with COVID. Um, but yeah, so once it moves up into that 240, 230, 250 area, definitely pay close attention to that. But I think that if it breaks out of this key area on the monthly chart, it can definitely see that 230 to 250 area for sure. On a breakdown, so if it breaks this like that 200 to 195, 190s area, I think Boeing can see down to like, maybe probably below 180 to 160s, maybe even lower than that, with like a complete breakdown coming in the low 100s. So down to 130, 120, somewhere in there. But it really depends on the catalyst, depends on what else is going on in the markets. Um, a lot of talks of war, the military industrial complex, they ready to get some money because they ain't really been, no new conflicts for real, since Obama was in office. So just a little something to keep in mind. So Boeing is getting ready to make a move soon. And I mean like a possible change in sentiment, that doesn't necessarily have to happen. It could keep, ranging for several months, several weeks or whatever. But it looks like, based on the price action right now that it's getting ready to it's kind of baking and gassing up for something, whether it be up or down, in my opinion. So those are some areas that I watch. This area to the upside, this area to the downside. So, okay. Uh, no problem, TT. Okay, so Winslow is asking for Cardano, and Chastity is asking for Spy. Chastity, actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to inbox you my Spy chart, like the latest markup that I did on Spy, because I actually just did that earlier today. Just in the interest of time, I'll shoot that over to you tonight. Okay, so I'll check out ADA right quick for Winslow. All right. Yay. All right, so ADA is one that I look at a lot, obviously. But I haven't looked at it in a little while since it's been, selling off and such. But let me choose another one that maybe I haven't marked up. Okay, there we go. So ADA been selling off for months now. Um, Possibly that, maybe it's finding the bottom, but it's also possible that it's not. But what we see here on the monthly chart is that this demand zone here is holding so far. So like I said, I like to map out my zones and I think about support and resistance in zones, in ranges. I mean, I can give you specific numbers and things like that, but I like to think of it in ranges. But so um, I really be watching on this just to see if this area holds. So that's about 97, 98 cents to the downside, and to the upside about $1.32. So to the downside, just watching to see if this area holds, and the price doesn't necessarily have to go bullish to beat this trend line. It could just consolidate beyond this trend line and just keep ranging. But definitely watch how this month shapes up. We're getting toward the middle of the month. We still got a little ways to go, so we don't know. But for this month, watching that's about $1.20, $1.23, somewhere in there. And then, of course, like I said, this 98 to about 97 to a dollar range to the downside. Um, so basically, Cardano is sitting in a historically um, demand zone. So demand meaning buyers typically come in here and buy it up, as you can see what's happened in the past. So watching to see if that same thing happens. If it doesn't, I mean, this thing could really, this thing could sell off, below 50 cents possibly. Um, but before it even gets to 50 cents, I'd probably say around 75, 60s, somewhere in there. Weekly chart. Weekly chart looks like it's starting to level out a little bit as well. So before you even think about the monthly chart, definitely be thinking you're going to see information, or you're going to see more data on the weekly chart first. So the weekly chart is just kind of hugging right at that monthly level where it sold off this week. It tried to beat it, but wasn't quite successful. But it looks like we're going to have something on Cardano over the next couple of weeks. So before February is out, we may see Cardano break out of here or break down. At which point, like I said, it can go below 50 cents possibly. Um, so I might just keep an eye on Cardano and set a couple of alerts for a short opportunity or for a buying opportunity, just a trade, not necessarily buying any coins or anything like that for a long term hold. But yeah, so potential trade opportunity there. But before I would enter a trade at this point, I probably just set an alert for about $1 and see what it does if it reaches $1. And then what I tend to do is go down to a lower time frame to see if I see any confirmations before I make my actual move. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it on the weekly chart. So it looks like it's trying to level out a little bit. So maybe it's found a bottom short term. The daily chart is just kind of telling me the same thing. You can kind of see where it started to. Here it was clearly bearish, and now it's kind of starting to level out and just kind of going sideways right now. But definitely looks like maybe it's going to be making a move soon. Like I said, could be up or down, but you have to wait on the price action to confirm um, that move before you make a position, especially if you're trading. If you're just dollar cost averaging, buy. What I typically do is I tell people mark up a chart, find your historically significant areas, and accumulate as the price hits those areas. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it on 88. I'd be watching that dollar to 97 cents area, and then I to the upside I'd be watching about $1.20, and then $1 low 130s. Like I said, I don't like to be biased when it comes to a chart. I like to incorporate all three scenarios, and that's either goes up or it goes down or just trades sideways. So that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it with that one. Um, I appreciate you, Winslow. No problem, TT. Chaz, like I said, I'll hit you in the inbox shortly. Ross, thanks for stopping through. Oh yeah, you know the MIC man, they've been scratching their hands. They ready to make some money. They got some Dems in office and such, so they You already know how it is, man. What's up, Theodore? I'm glad you came through. Chaz, I'm glad you got some value. I appreciate y'all. I'm really grateful that y'all came and rocked with me for a little bit. Definitely planning to do it more often, about every week or so on the weekend. So um, we'll do some freestyle ones where you guys can come in and just say, hey, let's check out these tickers. So only because I'm a little pressed for time tonight is why I chose a few and then had you guys recommend a few. So yeah. Winslow, I appreciate you. Any books or recommendations on becoming a better trader? I'm still green in this game, but patient. Yo, follow some dope people. Chastity is one of them. Ross also trades, but he's more low key with his. But Chastity, she does a lot of one-on-one stuff with her. So follow these people on Facebook. You can follow me as well. I'm more low key with mine too. Believe it or not, I'm more so on YouTube and stuff like that. By the Hood University, they have great offerings that are great price. So you're not going to be paying thousands of dollars to get very quality education. And then By the Hood also has a community where myself, Chastity, Roz, we're all part of that community, and that's no extra cost. So you can purchase pretty much any By the Hood course and get access to the community where there are a lot of great traders from beginner to expert. I mean, we got people in there that have been trading for almost as long as I've been alive. So really, really experienced traders in that group, and we all share information about potential plays and things like that. As far as books, I will, if you shoot me your email, I'll get a list together for you and shoot that over to you. You kind of put me on the spot, so I can't necessarily name any right at this moment. But one thing that you definitely want to do is work on your mindset. So the Psychology of Money is a good one that I have yet to check out. Yeah, Grounded Mind Trading. So David Chandler is a beast. Um, check him, follow him as well. Thank you for that, Chastity. Um, Russell Hughes, he's great too. Um, Corey Camp, Jimmy Williams, like I said, they're By the Hood University. Let's see. So many people, man, so many people. But those are the main ones that I interact with on a regular basis. So they're going to be, top of my mind. Um, but yeah, feel free to message me, Winslow, if you have any questions. Lance at bhcapitalenterprises.com. You can find me on social media at BH Capital Enterprises. So BH Cap ENT LLC. Those are my handles on Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook, just BH Capital Enterprises LLC. So any questions, I'm happy to chit chat. I love talking about the markets and stuff like that. My focus is mainly on price action, but I do know fundamentals pretty well. But I'm more of a technical trader and I incorporate the fundamentals. But like I said, shoot me a message and I'll send you a list of books for you to check out. And of course, By the Hood University, they have a podcast, they have public pages that you can check out. So I appreciate you stopping through. Leah, thank you for stopping through. I love you. Um, Again, Grounded Mind Trading. That's David Chandler. Definitely check him out. He's pretty big on price action as well. But y'all, thank y'all for rocking with me. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And again, if you have questions, hit me up, and I'm happy to chit chat. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.